All right, so we're going to move into learning targets 23 through 26, which is going to deal with the endocrine and reproductive systems in animals. So the endocrine system is made up of glands that release hormones in the body. So again, hormones are going to be chemical signals that kind of drive processes in the body, and there's a system uh, filled with glands that really drive this process. Hormones are chemical messengers that are produced in one part of the body that communicate with another part. This brings about the term target cell. And so a target cell is the destination of a particular hormone. So the endocrine function is going to be similar to the nervous system. So you have sensory input, meaning that the body receives a stimulus from the outside of the body or the inside of the body. Integration is where the brain is going to make a choice subconsciously of what to do with that information that's gathered. And then motor output is an actual gland that's going to produce a hormone to respond to the stimulus. So, for example, if you have low blood sugar, then it's going to increase, or you can lower blood sugar. You increase heart rate if there is a fight or flight situation, the production of adrenaline for a fight or flight situation. All those things are driven by the endocrine system. So there's two types of glands, and this is important. You have the exocrine and the endocrine. Exocrine glands release their chemical through a duct onto a surface or into a cavity. Okay, for example, sweat glands or oil glands. Okay, endocrine glands release their chemicals directly into the bloodstream, like adrenal glands, which release adrenaline right into the bloodstream, which increases your heart rate. There's also two types of hormones. So you have steroid hormones and non-steroid hormones. So steroid hormones pass directly through the cell membranes into the cell. Non-steroid hormones are received on the outside of the cell by a protein receptor and have to be actively transported into the cell. Okay, so steroid hormones passively transported into the cell, non-steroid hormones actively transported into the cell. So major glands. So we start with the hypothalamus, which is the master control gland, and it's going to receive all the information from body homeostasis, and it's going to send the responses needed to the pituitary gland. So the pituitary gland is actually second in command, so to speak, and so it's going to receive the information and the decision from the hypothalamus, and it's going to communicate it out to the certain parts of the body that it's needed, or the certain glands that are needed. The thyroid is going to control the rate of metabolism in the body, and the parathyroid controls the amount of calcium in the body. Adrenal glands are going to control the fight or flight response in the body, and they're typically located on top of the kidneys, and they will produce and inject adrenaline directly into the bloodstream. And your pancreas is going to control the body's blood sugar levels. So insulin and glucagon. Insulin is going to be produced when the blood sugar needs to be lowered, and glucagon is going to be produced and put into the bloodstream when the blood sugar level needs to be brought up. Then you have sex organs. So you have testes for the male and ovaries for the female. I misspelled female. They're going to control the primary and secondary sexual characteristics in males and females. And that carries us into the reproductive system. So the reproductive system, you have asexual reproduction. Asexual reproduction is the result, in the production of a clone from a single parent. So in asexual reproduction, we don't see any variation in the offspring. It's an exact copy of the parent generation. But in animals, in animals, we see sexual reproduction. So this creates an offspring that is genetically different from the parents, and this is where we get genetic variability. So we have this term called fertilization, which is the combination of gametes through sexual reproduction. So remember what gametes are. Gametes are sex cells. The sex cells are sperm and egg. Sexual reproduction creates an offspring that is genetically different from the parents. So there's two types of fertilization. You have internal and external fertilization. So external fertilization happens when the sperm cells fertilize the egg cells both outside of the organism's body. Internal fertilization is when sperm is directly deposited inside the female, and this happens inside the female's body. So male sexual characteristics, you have primary and secondary sexual characteristics in both males and females. So the primary sexual characteristic in males is the production of sperm cells. Sperm cells are made of a tail, a midpiece, and a head, as you can see here in the picture on the screen. Sperm production is non-cyclic, which means it begins during puberty for a male, and the males do not stop producing sperm until that male dies. There are 4 sperm cells are produced during meiosis. Each is genetically unique, and that's where a lot of genetic variability comes from. So again, once males begin to produce sperm in their life, they do not stop producing sperm until they die. Secondary male characteristics are characteristics that make the male physically different from the female. And androgens are hormones that encourage males' secondary characteristics, like more body hair. Okay, we typically see more body hair on males than we do females. There's other things we can go through in different types of animals and different traits, but those androgens are really what makes a male a male. Females also have primary and secondary sexual characteristics. So the primary sexual characteristic of female is the production of egg cells. Egg cell production differs from sperm cell production in that one egg cell is produced and the other 3 cells are called polar bodies and they will be discarded. Egg production is cyclic in nature, with the cycle beginning at puberty and ending later in life. So females do not produce eggs for their entire lifespan. Some secondary sexual characteristics of female, you have the estrus, which is a cyclic pattern in non-human mammals. The lining of the uterus is reabsorbed back into the animal's body, and this occurs once or twice a year. Then you have the menstrual cycle, which is a cycle pattern in humans, and the uterus discards its lining and recreates it every 28 days in order to prepare for the developing fetus. Long slide, feel free to pause it, but it's all about the development of organisms. So once fertilization has occurred. So a zygote is the first cell that is going to be created after fertilization. Then we see the stages of development. The morula is a solid ball of cells that's created through cell division. A blastula is a hollow ball of cells during which the organism's cells begin to specialize. Implantation is the connection of the new organism to the mother inside of the uterus. I put implantation in there twice, sorry. Gastrulation is the creation of a gastrula, which begins the creation of the digestive tract. And we also begin to start seeing tissue specialization occur. So the ectoderm is the nervous cells and skin cells. Mesoderm is going to be the muscle cells and bone cells, and the endoderm is going to be the inner organ cells. Embryological development, we see some organisms begin to lose their tail and gills, but begin developing more human characteristics. And here you can see at certain points in development, you cannot tell most organisms apart from one another until they get later on into development. So that is the end of this learning target. Be sure you complete the video, and if you have questions, please feel free to shoot me an email, and I will get back to you. Thank you.